Hey, TC family. So glad you could join us again. All those watching literally from all over the world. We've been so grateful to be able to host these brain chats about loving yourself over this last 3 weeks. And this is our fourth and last one for right now. We're hoping to be able to do more of those. But tonight we have an opportunity to kind of recap some of the things we've heard over the last few weeks. And we're going to do that with some of our very own team. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and say hello. Mayoki.
Hi, I'm Mayoki. Hi, welcome.
Hello, I'm Pastor Paul, and it's good to see y'all tonight.
Hi, I'm Chris Brown, and I serve as the group's coordinator, and I'm just grateful to be here with you guys.
Glad to have each and every one of you. I think we're going to have an opportunity to kind of really get a holistic view. These guys and lady is very well versed in some different spaces. Give a little bit of your background, like, just as far as ministry, professionally, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I am a care manager here at Transformation Church. A little bit of my background is I'm a social worker. I'm inquisitive. I like to ask questions. That's kind of my thing.
Questions. She does a good job with that.
Wait a minute. I am inquisitive. Some people say nosy, but hey, it gets the job done. So I've been serving here at Care at Transformation Church for about 7 years now.
Thank you. Pastor Paul.
All right, I'm Pastor Paul, and I'm part of the launch team when we first started Transformation Church, and excited about different things that have been going on. I'm one of the elder pastors on staff, and I've been a pastor, I've been a teacher, a principal, interior designer, and hopefully I'll be the Walmart welcome man my last few years of life.
Seasoned saint. I can say that because that was his words before we started today.
Chris is very accurate. He's a seasoned saint for sure. And so a little bit about me. I'm originally a New Yorker. Shout out to the New Yorkers and the Northerners. I felt a pull to pursue vocational ministry. And in conjunction with that was this call to be a part of something that was multi-ethnic and multi-generational. And I had never been a part of anything like that in my life. I'd been a part of predominantly black churches, predominantly white churches. And so I prayed and I said, Lord, if this is something that you want me to be a part of, you're going to have to show me what it looks like. So fast forward a little bit. I'm in college. I'm studying pastoral studies with minors in Bible and theology, and I hear about this church in Indian Land, South Carolina, that was exactly what God was calling me to do. And so I interned a couple years ago, and I just kept showing up until someone said, hey, I think that guy should just work here at some point. And so
summer break, spring break, all those things.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And so I've been a part of the group's team for the last couple years, and now that I have the opportunity to serve alongside these incredible folks.
Thanks so much, Chris, and really, really glad that each one of you are here. And we're glad that you're here. It has been really encouraging for us to see so many people tune in and week out, and then people even going back sharing these videos, because this is an important conversation, not just for this month. Yes. May is what is called Mental Health Awareness Month, but we here are calling it Brain Health Awareness Month, and it's been intentional. If you were able to be a part of our first chat with Dr. Daniel Amen, he describes just the reality that the brain is an organ, and so often mental illness carries a stigma because it's almost like people conjure it up. You did something wrong, and here's where you landed. And brain health gives us so much more of a focus of being able to really realize there's hope. There's a possibility of treatment, and we need to look at it that way, because when there's a stigma along with something, people stay in the shadows. Mm-hmm. People don't reach out for help. That was one of the big standouts to me in just getting this conversation started, and we wanted to kind of lay that groundwork tonight. We're going to stick with brain health because I think it speaks to the reality of what we get the opportunity to walk along with people in and encourage them towards. I want to hear from you all, and we don't have to go down the line. Any one of you, we'll start with Pastor Paul. 3 weeks of really, really solid conversations. Give me just one or two that's really stuck out to you.
All right, I think first for Dr. Amen, one of the things I loved when he said at the very beginning, no one is shamed for cancer, diabetes, or heart disease. And then he says, no one should be shamed for depression, panic disorder, bipolar, schizophrenia, addictions, and other brain health issues. And I love that because from the very beginning, when we started talking about brain health or mental health, we said, erase the stigma. And that stigma really needed to be erased. And even with all three of them, one of the continuing threads was it's about relationship. and being in relationship with one another and being in a safe place of relationship as we deal with brain health issues, that we can encourage each other, pray for each other, challenge each other, get help for each other when it's necessary, and just being a place that we have those relationships that are strong.
Yeah, we definitely are going to unpack that a little bit more a little bit down the road in this conversation. So thanks, Pastor Paul Mayoki.
So I think that one of the major things that I've taken away from this is rest equals restoration. People are just so quick to just be like, oh, I'm okay, I can just keep going. And your brain needs to rest. And so that's been something that's just been a standout to me. There's been a ton of different things that I've heard that have been like great things, but really resting has been an important piece. And it's not, oh, I'm going to sleep, but actually resting.
What has that looked like, some of those things? Have you made changes, or what's the awareness look like for you?
It's one of those things for me where I am like, I'm acknowledging and knowing that my brain is doing some different things. So I think that something I shared with you a couple weeks ago is kind of like I'm in sensory overload. What does that mean? That means I'm kind of irritable. I don't know why. That means I'm just kind of in this place where I'm not thinking productively. I just need to rest. And what does that rest look like for me? It may be reality TV. It may be a walk. It may be playing with my dog. It may be a ton of things. But I know that that's my body's way of saying, stop. Let's do something different.
Yeah, I liked that too, that rest has variances to it. You need mental rest. You need physical rest in the way of sleep. One of the things that I heard was if you're not exercising certain things that are really your wiring, then you need rest in a space where you're going to that space. So if that's a hobby, if you're super creative or whatever, you need to have that, because that is, even though it's activity, it's rest for you. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I love when she said, I had written it down in my journal, she said, it's better in loving yourself correctly to have constant and consistent restoration than to have to rebuild your life. I thought, whoa, that was great.
That's deep. That'll mess you up if you're not careful. No, that's really good. That's really good. Chris.
I think for me, the biggest nugget came out of that conversation that you had, Curtis, with Dr. Jonathan last night. And just that comment that he said about leading with love and kindness, not only with others, but also with yourself. I think it's easy in this period of isolation to be less gracious with ourselves. I know that was the case for me, especially once this all initiated and we were under that shelter in place. And I was like, oh, wow, we're working from home. This is great. Like, it's kind of like a mini vacation, but I actually feel the opposite. My body is screaming the opposite. And so for me, not only being gracious and leading with kindness and compassion with others and the interactions that I have with them, because this is a difficult time for everybody, whether it's emotional or whether it's your brain health or whether it's financial, but also for myself. It's like, okay, I need to take care of myself. I need to make sure that I'm resting, like Pastor Paul and like Mayoki have mentioned. And so for me, that was really the biggest nugget. It was like, okay, I need to learn to lead with kindness, not question how I'm feeling in this moment, and just accept it.
Yeah. No,
And in alignment with that graciousness, I thought about too from last night when he was talking about people on the outside looked perfectly normal, but on the inside there's tons of stuff that's going on. And so we just have to be mindful and just be in a place where we are knowing that somebody may be a little off, or let's just check in with them. Let's just extend that grace, whether it's road rage or you're just short-tempered with somebody via email, phone conversation, or whatever that looks like. But it's a huge thing across the board with brain health is, you may look totally normal, whatever normal looks like on the outside, but inside is tons of stuff that's a work in progress.
You both make a good point, because we talk about things that may actually come down to we're seeing that there's a medical diagnosis that needs to take place. And we're also talking about times that maybe circumstantially, situationally, people are just in a place. It could be season of life. They could be going through something that leads them into a place that all of a sudden they're tapping into something that they'd never experienced before. And it's not necessarily that we have to differentiate the two, but I think it's important to recognize somebody may not have a brain health history, but be in a season.
Yes.
And so it's looking for some of those things that go, I know you, and that doesn't really look like you.
Right.
And so being able to ask those questions, I think, graciously is super important.
And courageous enough to be able to ask those questions, because sometimes we feel stuff and we see stuff, but we don't really act on it because we don't think it's our place. But it's something where we just have to, if you're feeling it, if the Lord has put it on your spirit and gave you that discernment to be able to speak on it, then do it.
Yeah. I was going to jump, and I'm going to stay right here for a second. Pastor Paul alluded to it, and we talked about the relationship element, and y'all have already picked up on just that connection point of like being gracious with yourself, realizing that Christ has been gracious with us. I think one of the most beautiful things that we got to talk about this entire time was don't live in isolation.
Yes.
And it's easy to do that because sometimes I think we go and go, I'm just going to go process this by myself. I'm going to figure it out, and then we'll move on. And the enemy likes to isolate us. God's created us for community. And I think from a theological standpoint, it's important to recognize Father, Son, Holy Spirit, literally in and of himself ministers to one another. And we've been created to do the same thing. And so I'm thinking right now about a number of our ministries. All of you have touched different parts of the ministries here at Transformation Church. What have you seen relationally in the spaces that you've had opportunity to be serving and ministering with right now? Any one of you, go ahead and take off.
Yeah, I'll speak just from the standpoint of groups. And Mayoki really hit on it when she said being courageous enough to ask those questions. One of the pockets of groups that we have a young adult group that meets every Wednesday. And in that group, we've had opportunities to just connect with young adults from the ages of 18 to 30. And a lot of the conversation, yes, we dive into content. Right now, we're walking through the book of John, and then we'll walk into the good life once that series begins. However, a lot of it is just connecting and just seeing, hey, how are you doing? And being courageous enough to ask those questions. And so, for example, there are a couple teachers that are within that group. And so this COVID situation, this pandemic, it hits them a little bit differently than it hits, us who are in the ministry world, or a police officer who is also in our group. And so just being able to have the opportunity to reach out, to ask questions, like Mayoki said, to just be courageous enough to say, how are you? And to receive their answer with graciousness, with acceptance, but point them to not only resources, but to hope. And like you so incredibly stated last night, Curtis, that the hope is a person, and his name is Jesus.
That's good. Well, I would say for family ministries, so with our teens and our kids, that we're really seeing that our hangouts that we do, our contact with them has been so meaningful. In fact, after a couple of our first hangouts, one of our parents sent us a text and she said, you know what? She goes, I was sitting there with tears in my eyes. And she said, because this is the first Zoom call that my son had that he had fun on. And I thought, wow, so here he is. He's looking for some fun. He's doing his schoolwork and he's doing his other things. But it was a great place for him to connect and for the kids to see each other, that they're missing each other and those type of things. Also with our servant leaders, we've been having some really precious times with our servant leaders, connecting, encouraging each other, just like Chris said, of asking those hard questions. How are you doing? How can we help you? What are some things we can do for you, pray for you? We've had some different opportunities. One of the things I have a team that we've been connecting with people over 65, for those of us who are seasoned saints. And it's been really good because a lot of them many of them are by themselves or with their spouse or with a friend, and with this quarantine, just to hear someone else's voice. It's been amazing to see what that connection, that relationship building that says, hey, there is hope. His name is Jesus, and he provides us hope right now. It's not something that we have to look forward to, but we can live in hope right now in the situation we're living.
I think that's the same thing with us in the care ministry. It's been an awesome opportunity to be able to speak into people, to check in on them, like you just talked about, Pastor Paul, as well as praying with them through some difficult things. We've had quite a number of individuals that have lost people and loved ones through COVID or just through natural causes, and just loving on them, as well as just being creative during this time. We're checking in on folks and letting them know, hey, we love you. We can't physically come and see you, but we are praying for you. Is there something that we can do to encourage you and to be with you? So it's been a great time with the servant leaders as well, because we've had a lot of people that have served in the care world for a long time, and now they're seeing some things of them feeling isolated, and us just saying, hey, it's okay for you to have some feelings. You don't have to be strong all the time. There's people that are here with you. That's the part of the community that people need to see in action.
Yeah, we have something that we talk about, and I think it even came from a curriculum through the Stevens ministry, but it says over and over again, we need to be reminded there's one cure giver, and that's Christ. We're all caregivers. Christ is in us. We have the opportunity to walk along with people, but caring for one another is not, I've arrived at a space. Yes, experience is part of that, but it really is going, I'm willing to walk along with somebody else and be an encourager, and we all need that in our lives. And so I'd love to talk a little bit about just family of God. That's something that we've taken on this year here to kind of be more vocal about. It's something we've had the opportunity to live. We see it beginning to take more and more shape as God is defining his heart for his children and for his people. Pastor Paul, would you give us a little bit, just kind of that, just I guess like maybe a summation or a brief?
Yes. So the family of God, when we think about it, God has invited us into his family to be a part of it, to be adopted sons and daughters, to be joint heirs with Christ, and we're a new family. And so that family of God idea says that if we are a family, then we live together as a family. We don't live just side by side or just see people on Sunday, but we're involved and intertwined in each other's lives. And so as we look at that family of God, and especially through the idea of brain health, that's that important thing that if we're a family, that then we have the courage, like Mayoki said, to speak into each other's lives. I was thinking about my own kids, that I have 4 adult children. And it's been so interesting because my wife and I are both over 65, have compromised immune systems, and our kids have started parenting us through this whole thing. They're checking in with me. They're probably not real happy that I'm sitting in here right now. But it's been so interesting because what has happened is the things, the values, the characteristics that we passed on to them, they're now living out their lives and using that as well. And so as a family of God, we have a great opportunity to take the character of God, the characteristics of who he is, and to share those with one another. And as a family then, that allows us to speak into each other's lives. We can do that. So as we build relationship, as we come together, then Chris and I may be doing something together. And as a guy who's younger than all 4 of my kids, he can speak into my life because we're family together. And so we look at it, and I love that we have that opportunity to do that right now.
That's really good. I want to kind of tie that in because we do have a care ministry here. That care ministry touches so many different spaces. One of the things that I loved when I came here is Pastor Derwin made it clear all the time that he did not have a different Holy Spirit than what you and I have. Us today, we're not up here because we're experts on this. We're up here because we have a heart and a passion to see everyone experience the life, death, and resurrection and the hope that comes with who Jesus is. And so we're having a conversation right now. And the reason I say that way is because while we want to provide some paths for care, whether that's through marriage, whether that's trying to get your finances in order, whether that is I'm going through depression and I need counseling and I want to point you in a direction, as we talk about groups and we talk about kids and we talk about teens, we talk about you being a part of your own family, we talk about young adults getting together, we are the church. Mm-hmm. So TC has the greatest opportunity to impact each other as each other. Mm-hmm. And so while we want to invite you, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the resources that we have, I want you to know that we're here to support you in what it looks like to walk along with the person that you sit beside in the pew or in the seat on Sunday, the person that you're in group with, the person that you serve alongside, the person that you work alongside that lives across the street from you. I want you to know that the channel is open because of who Christ is for you to talk to him, and he talks back. And so we have an amazing, amazing opportunity as the family of God to walk with one another. Mm-hmm. And so I'll transition it to just the care side of things. Mayoki, kind of give us a picture right now, family of God and care and what some of that has looked like.
So really what that looks like, you just kind of hit on it, Curtis, as you were introducing it. We are walking along. We're here to walk along with you. We want to journey on this whole thing together with you. We're talking about something that's a holistic person, the holistic health of not just an individual, but a family, kids, extended family, loved ones, aging parents, all of that stuff is where we're here. That's our heart. We love people. People matter to God, so they matter to us. So in that spirit of it, if you are experiencing some sort of brain health thing, or if you just want to talk, or you're feeling isolated, or you're having some feelings that you've never quite had before, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. There's a couple ways that you can reach out to us. You can call the church and ask to speak to someone on the care ministry. You can go to our website, which is transformationchurch.tc, and send us an email. You can also look to the website and look at all of the resources that we have available, because you may just say, hey, something has hit me interesting. I may want to talk to somebody. We have tons of resources that are out there, from counselors to psychologists, psychiatrists, and just everything in between. And if it's something that we don't have, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, because that's our heart, that's our passion, and that's the way that we love on people.
Yeah, and if you're watching right now and you want to take that step, we have a link available to you. It's our care request card, and that'll email us directly, and we'll be able to follow up with you. And so I just encourage you, again, as she said, it could be as simple as, I just want to process some thoughts, or I just need somebody to pray with me. And I want to go back to some of the simple things, and we're going to hear, Pastor Paul's going to introduce a story here in a second, but some of the simple things. I know, communication is so important. Just keeping the lines open. And so, you might jump on if the first thing that you say is, how you doing? And you start diving in, someone's like, oh man, here they're going to, diagnose me right now, right? But just the communication lines open of just connecting with somebody and just seeing how they're doing, just, keeping it light. And I'm just hitting on a couple things real quick that just were popping in my mind as we were talking. The other thing is, I want to encourage you. I know I have a toddler at home right now. My Oki's got, how old is Aiden?
6.
He's 6. Adult children. Chris, you're not there yet. But
No. Do you have a dog?
No, definitely not. I play with Jay Scott's cat sometimes.
I was just going to say this. Even though some of this might be over their head, they're still processing it. Yeah. My dog is processing it.
Yes.
He's like, why y'all here? I used to be able to sit wherever I wanted. Now y'all in my space, right? And so I just want to encourage you, slow down.
Yes.
Just, you don't have to diagnose him.
Yeah.
Spend time.
Yeah.
Just spend that time and listen. I have to be reminded of that on a regular basis, because even as we thought things have slowed down, there's a lot that has ramped up. And so I just encourage you, take that time to slow down, whether it's your kids or just, your roommate, whatever. If it's a friend, a neighbor you need to call, take that time and slow down and just enjoy each other.
Yes.
Enjoy each other. Pastor Paul?
Yeah, that's a great word, Curtis. I think that thing of listen, that's so important right now, that people need someone to listen to them. And not only listen, but one of the things that we say in care and say throughout our ministries is, God never wastes an experience. And because of that as a family, that many of us have gone through different experiences in our lives, that he wants to take those and it's a term we call wounded warrior, that God takes that woundedness, that thing that we had in our life that was a mess, and he turns it into a masterpiece. And when he does that, then the Holy Spirit uses that to touch the lives of others. Well, we have an example of that right now, a family that has gone through that, and they're willing to share their experience so that each one of us can be encouraged too. So I want you to take a look at this video.
My name is Anthony Moore, and this is my wife, Leslie Moore.
And today we're going to talk about how brain health has affected our family and how we are doing with parenting, knowing that brain health is a part of our family now. So I'm going to take it all the way back to about 11 years ago with my mom. We had no clue about what brain health was. We always heard about mental illness, but not really having a clear definition of what mental illness was. But now, since going to Transformation Church, we've really started to understand what brain health is. And so about 11 years ago, my mom hit a brick wall with anxiety and depression. It really flipped our family upside down. And so we didn't know what her warning signs were. We didn't know how to get her treated, how to have any resources, because we didn't know of what resources we needed for her. And so I can remember it was a scary time for our family. And this is my family in Houston, Texas. So we're in Charlotte now, but we've lived in Atlanta. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm trying to find every little thing, any avenue to get my mom the support that she needs. She went through so many changes, body changes. She went through retiring all at the same time. So there was really a chemical imbalance. What we learned later was there's a chemical imbalance in her brain that is affecting her brain health. And so by us not knowing or understanding what was truly going on, we really went to every hospital in Houston, Texas to try to figure out who can help her. And what we learned was that there were so many places that did not treat my mom. And so we had to really try to figure out as a family and put our heads together and pray so much to try to really understand how can we help and get my mom the support that she needs. And it's so funny because with brain health, it's weird to talk about, but we like to talk about it because we want to normalize the conversation. But in every city, you know exactly where to go for trauma. In Houston, Texas, if you have a trauma, you go to Bentop Hospital. In Atlanta, if you have a trauma, you go to Grady Hospital. You know the places to go to for certain things. When we talk about brain health and someone that's having a crisis at the time, I can't tell you any hospital to take someone to if they're having that type of need. And so it really took a lot for our family because we didn't know where to go. And so I really went through a time frame to try to forgive my mom. I had to understand that I needed to forgive her because I was so upset and really kind of angry with her for this happening to her. But then I also had to forgive myself for not being the best daughter at the time. And that took a lot of getting over, right? I needed the support for my own self. So I started going to therapy. I started going to counseling and getting my own self-counseling because I've learned even through this entire situation, at the end of the day, we all need some type of support. I remember listening to Dr. Amen on the first week of Brain Health for Transformation Church, and he said, your genes is what loads the gun for brain health, but it's your life experiences that triggers it. And that spoke volumes to me because I have the genes. I know that it's in my family. I know that some things run in my family. So I want to do everything possible for this not to happen to me. And then I also learned of some of the warning signs this past week with Dr. Smith, and then we also had Jonathan Hederly. He came on, and I've learned so many different nuggets, and I wish I had known these things 11 years ago to support my mother. So with that, I know that I now need rest and how to rest my brain, how to find out what type of rest I need. And then also I learned the different warning signs. And now in hindsight, I see that my mom had all of the warning signs more than 11 years ago when she hit her brick wall. And I just wish that we had the conversations going 11 years ago to really support families like we are today. So one thing that I really wanted to share, and I absolutely love that we continue to say the same thing, is that faith and medicine work together. And I can't tell you how much I try to pour that into our families now, that it's okay to pray. It's okay to have faith, but it's okay to have medicine. Take your medicine daily. That is what's helping you to be a better version of yourself and to be the best you. And so now that we are more equipped to know more about brain health, it really has changed our parenting style. And even though I was still, 18, 19 during that time, Anthony really saw me through that entire time. We were just dating at the time, and he really saw my family and me go through this with my mother. So it's really kind of helped us change how we parent for our little daughter.
Yeah, because around that time it was very frustrating. I think that brain health affects everyone, even when you're dating someone. So as a spouse or as a partner at that time, just her dealing with the frustrations of trying to get her mom to get help, and her mom at the moment didn't necessarily want help, or the frustration of trying to get her mom to take her medicine when her mom wouldn't take her medicine. Those frustrations would trickle into our relationship. Yeah. And so instead of taking her frustrations out on her mom, she would take those frustrations out on me. And so as a person who wanted to support, I've learned to not take those comments personal because they weren't really directed towards me. And also I've learned that it's okay to not always give advice. Sometimes it's best to listen, because I'm not a doctor, right? So I can't fix everything. And around that time, she didn't really need or want my advice. She really just wanted a shoulder to lean on. And so my whole stance while trying to support her and her family while they're going through that was, it's okay not to be okay, right? It's okay to seek help, and you dealing directly with someone who has or is dealing with brain health, it's okay for you not to be okay as well. And it's not something to be ashamed of. And so as far as us taking that into our parenting style, even though our daughter is 1 year old, that's something that, we've talked about, is making sure that we've created a space to where our daughter is able to express herself, to where if she's going through something, that she's not ashamed to kind of let us know. And us as parents, it's not something that we necessarily have to hide, that we can go seek the help to get her the help that she needs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for us, it's just choosing to parent differently and choosing to create a safe space. We also want to make sure that we are in tune to her feelings, right? So even now we're going through the tantrum stage. Whew. Pray for us. But we're going through the tantrum stage of a 1 year old. We thought that it started at 2. It did not start like that for us. She's already through tantrums. So really having to settle down our own thoughts and emotions to say, hey, what's going on? How can we help you? Let's help you use your words. Is this what you like? Is this what you don't like? And I can honestly say, I don't think my parents did that at all for me. It was like, figure out what you need. There's no talking. There's no really trying to understand from a child's perspective. And I think that that's something that we have talked about that we really want to continue as our daughter and hopefully future children get older. But also just understanding and knowing the warning signs. I think we've learned so much this past week that we are better equipped as parents to really understand what to look for in our children. We've gotten so many nuggets from the dynamic speakers that we've had and guests on, and I just feel ready and able to parent better. So all in all, this has been a great month for brain health. I've learned something. Have you learned anything?
Yeah, I learned a lot this month.
We've both learned something, and I can honestly say that I've been sharing everything that I've learned with my parents through social media, anything that I can put my hands on to say, hey, did you know this? Hey, did you know that? Because I think that it's so important that we really stop the shame, stop the negative connotation of what brain health is and mental illness. We all go through things. I'm taking preventative measures. I think that everybody should really take preventative measures and look at therapy, look at counseling, look at all of the different avenues that we have now. Look at those as preventative care instead of a crisis care. So thank you so much to Transformation Church for having brain health and letting it be the forefront of everything that we do. And just to make sure that everybody knows and try to get the word out to change the connotation of what brain health really is.
All right. We just want to thank Anthony and Leslie first for sharing their story. Again, realize that God never wastes an experience, that the experience that they've gone through, not only with the experience she had with her mother, but it helped her to understand who she was and how she was allowing that to trickle down into her family. It made me think about for myself that when I turned 60 5 years ago, I had to change medication. I have a neuromuscular disease, and I was turning 60, and my mind was going, okay, I'll be 70 in 10 years. And all these things were happening, and I didn't realize as an extrovert I was feeling differently. And I remember I have a good friend who's a counselor that we sat and talked a little about some of these things. And he said, you're probably dealing with situational depression. And as I listened to that and as I heard him, I thought, wow, this is what this is like. And in understanding then to see, okay, what are the signs? What are those things? And the beauty of it was of us understanding what brain health is, that just like for my disease, I take a medication to live, it's the same way that sometimes we need to take medication to go through something like depression or something like that because we're trying to get better, just like in healing a broken bone or anything else. And I love that when Anthony said that it's okay not to be okay. And I remember a good friend of mine saying one time, he said, it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. And so the beauty of what we're doing here at Transformation Church and with having Brain Health Awareness Week is for each one of us to understand that it's okay not to be okay. But we don't want you to stay there. We want you to experience the love that Christ has for you in the midst of the challenge that you have. And we want you to know that as the family of God, that there are people here that have gone through the exact same things that you've gone through, that have dealt with a lot of the issues that you've dealt with. And we're here for you, to encourage you, to pray for you, to recommend resources for you, and to help you in those areas. And one last thing, that as I was listening to them, I was reminded of a statement one time that said, short-term investment has long-term benefits. That if you're facing a situation of brain health, don't try to take care of it yourself. Because if you reach out to someone, if you seek resources, if you seek people that can help you and walk with you, you're gonna have long-term benefits in your life because of that.
Thank you, Pastor Paul. That was incredible. I'm so grateful that Anthony and Leslie were, if you listen so much of what we talked about, they've lived it and experienced it. And so often, one of the things that leads us to isolation is almost to think like, I don't know if anybody else is going to understand where I am right now. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. And it's just a reality of one of the thoughts that ends up in our hearts and in our minds. And so I just want to encourage you again, if there's something that's different and it's contrary to how you know yourself to be, or maybe this has been something for you for a long time and you're going, I don't know how to change this. Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you, it's not going to happen you by yourself.
That's right.
It's going to happen when you step out and you invite some other people into that space. And it starts with the one who not only listens, but he does answer. Mm-hmm. The Lord answers. And when I say answer, it may not mean an immediate change in the circumstance. It may not mean a change in the circumstance, but what it will mean is the evidence of the presence of the creator and designer of all things, the one who cares perfectly. And we want to be a part of that. We want to encourage you in that. We want that for each other. And so as Pastor Paul invited you, care request card, utilize it today, utilize it next week. It's available on the website for you to reach out. Because today, the care things that have introduced this could be marriage, a struggle there. It could be communication. It could be depression. It could be a loss of job. It could be dissatisfaction in work. It could be financial issues. These are all spaces that, no, we do not do them perfectly, but they're spaces that we've acknowledged and recognized resources to be able to walk along with you. And so we want to invite you into that space and want you to take advantage of that opportunity. Any last thoughts? I know we want Chris to close us out with something specific. Mayoki, I'm going to hit you right now.
Nope, I don't have anything.
Look at that. Now, I need clarifying, because just mark my words, there may be another comment or question right before we're about to finish.
That's accurate. That is very accurate, yes.
Well, we've been talking about community, and that's hugely important, and we've got something really exciting coming up. You're going to be hearing about it a ton. Chris, take it away.
So beginning May 31st, Pastor Derwin is going to be walking us as Transformers through the Good Life series. It's going to be based on his book, The Good Life, What Jesus Teaches About Happiness. And so we're inviting you to participate and to engage with that sermon series in 3 ways. The first, pick up the book. There's a special deal that Lifeway is doing all the way through Father's Day. The book is going to be 50% off, and I've had the chance to read it. Have y'all had the chance to read it?
Just started.
It is an incredible book, and Pastor Derwin's written several books. This is my favorite of his thus far, and so I'm really excited for what the Lord's going to do in and through this book and what he's going to teach you about happiness and the good life. The second thing is think about facilitating a Good Life group. Starting June 7th, all of our TC groups will be going through the Good Life study. And so think about facilitating a Good Life group. Maybe you have a gift of facilitation, of building a biblical community, engaging folks in conversation, and you want to just walk with folks through the Good Life series. It's an 8-week commitment, but it's an opportunity for you to engage with folks, to disciple folks, to shepherd folks, and especially in a tumultuous and crazy time that we're in, it's going to be super important. So we want to encourage you to do that. And then lastly, if you don't want to facilitate a group, we still want to encourage you to participate in the group. Leslie said something towards the beginning of the video that really struck a chord with me. And she said, at the end of the day, everyone needs support. At the end of the day, everyone needs support, and that's just such in alignment with what Pastor Paul and what Curtis was sharing about what it means to be a part of the family of God. We weren't meant to do this alone. We weren't meant to live the Christian life alone. We weren't meant to do life, period, alone. And so if you just need community, you have a desire to get to know some brothers and sisters in Christ, you want to experience the good life and what Jesus teaches about true happiness, we want to encourage you to join a TC group, join a Good Life group. And so all of those things that I mentioned, pre-ordering the book, facilitating and leading a Good Life group, and then participating in a Good Life group, all of those things can be found on our website at transformationchurch.tc/thegoodlife. And so we're excited for what God is going to do with this book and with this series, and we're just looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. We are super excited. And just so you know, obviously we're in a time of social distancing, and we're really wanting to continue to make sure that we're being safe. And so we're going to be offering online elements to this ongoing. Groups are going to have opportunities to kind of transition as time goes on. But the online opportunity has been tremendous, and a lot of people have been able to connect and engage in that way. So we want to encourage you to do that. I'm going to wrap with this thought. We have done brain health awareness for how many? 6 years. Wow, okay. I didn't have that number in my head, but that's awesome. 6 years, and our heart and our desire is we're loving the fact that God's given us the opportunity to reach beyond the doors of this building. And we all have the opportunity to walk into spaces. I thank you who is maybe the professional that is stepping into this space, that you've studied, you've done the research, and you've done it because you have a heart to see people experience hope and to experience healing. And so we want to continue to partner in this area and in our region to be able to make sure that the stigma continues to be erased, eradicated. I'll say it again, and I think it's the most important thing that we're talking about. There is hope. And this is not a religious statement. This is not a foo-foo statement. Jesus was solid. Dude was like Yoda bows down, okay? Because his word is true and it's so good. And so I just want you to be encouraged today. Reach out. Our goal is not to preach. Our goal is to walk along. And that's what Christ invites us into. And so I encourage you to reach out. Those of you who are doing this, we'd love to continue to build partnerships in this area. And we are excited because we don't think this is the last Brain Health Chat we'll be hosting. We've got some plans and some ideas in order to take and continue this conversation. I hope you will as well with the discussion guides, and know again that you can reach out through the care request card and touch base with us. Thank y'all so much for being here. Thank you for being here. We love you.
Curtis, I got something.
No, come on.
I'm good. I just wanted to say that.
She did it anyway. She still did it. My prophecy came true. Love y'all. Have a great night. God bless.